Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Cloudcast, episode 140. The best games you played in 2023. Woo-hoo. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers. And we've got a lot to discuss tonight, chaps, so I think we're going to skip right over the painting competition results and get straight into talking about the board games. All in favour, let's take a quick vote.
We can come back to that in a couple of months, right?
Yeah, why not? A few more months so I can repaint another Minotaur.
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, at Expo, we went to Blue Giant Studios. That is the correct name from now, isn't it? Because they changed the name a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And we bought a set of 3 Minotaur models from them at the Expo. Sid picked one of the 3. And Sid also set as the painting challenge that we are only to use the paints that are in the Viejo model colour starter set. Which I know me and Andy had the same issue. As soon as you started doing something, your hand wandered towards your other tools and trickery.
Yes, it did. It's just a natural instinct now. It's like, oh, I've got a nice big box of really good. No, Andy, you can't. You've got 16 and nothing more.
The amount of times I went, oh, a nice bit of chestnut ink would be good there. And I actually got the bottle out and went, oh, hang on, I'm not supposed to be doing that, am I?
No, I had to make my own. Well, I say make my own inks. It's really water the paint down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Rally have the right idea.
It was a really good challenge. It was really interesting to do it. Mm-hmm. To do it that way. But yeah.
It made me realise that I cannot remix colours. Because I mixed colours and didn't make notes. And then 2 weeks later, tried to put some highlights on and went, I've gone for some kind of purpley fleshy colour. What did I add to that? I really wish I'd made some notes, which I've now done on some of my miniatures. I've found out that using my iPad and OneNote is really good because you can take a photograph of the model and your wet palette.
All right.
And then do a little then annotate and go which paint this was.
Oh, that's cool.
Seems like a lot of effort.
It was making all the skin tones for the 3 that I did, because I've done all 3, obviously only into the 1. I started making paint ratios and I've written them all down. So the name of the paint, the ratio like 2 to 1 to 3 to 1, just depending on whether it's a dark, the shadow, the mid-tone or the light tone.
I've started doing it for my Kingdom Death ones as well, because the starting survivors are the folks with the lantern. We've got a couple of other survivors that you can add in later. And I know I want them to match, so I've made sure I've made a note of every single paint I've used. I don't want to try and I don't want to try and mix them later and get that wrong.
Because what you don't want to do is come back to a miniature that you painted, say, about, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 12 months ago, and decide that it's probably time I should finish it off, having put the base colours on. Go back to it and realise I have no idea which colours I actually use. Now, I know which paint set I use, so it's narrowed the field a little bit. But when you've still got 48 to choose from and 9 of them are brown, it makes it a bit more difficult. So, top tip, make notes.
Make notes of your painting.
Yeah.
You see, you're marking yourselves as gentlemen of a particular age again.
Not at all. It's all
half our
well.
listeners will not have this problem.
Well, to be fair, in a single painting session, if you paint a miniature in like an hour or 2, it doesn't really matter because you're not going to come back to it. But if you're painting something that takes a long time and you're going to be doing it overnight or whatever, and you'll do like a base coat and then come back to it a few days later, it does matter because if you run out of paint, like you haven't put out enough and you need to mix some more, it does matter because you get that tone slightly wrong. It really looks rubbish.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I just don't think other people forget as much stuff as we do.
That's not an invalid argument.
I know it's not an invalid argument.
But it is important when you're talking about specific ratios of paint. It does matter. Well, at least it can matter. For our talents, probably not.
Anyway, we did these models. We all based on the base that came with it, so no extra display bases or dioramas or anything like that. We all used this basic paint set and nothing else. We took photographs of them all together in the same lighting and same situation. We posted them on Facebook and got people to vote anonymously on which they thought was the best paint model. Now, I know these votes have been coming in all week and things have been, should we say, close.
Very close.
Now, I wanted Sid to go look at it, but Sid apparently passed the message on to Sue. So I've had messages from Sue all day going, have you got any votes anywhere else? What do we do about this vote? And I was like, no, just you and Sid can decide and be the adjudicators of this voting system.
Absolutely.
I have officially absolved all responsibility for this.
Oh, God. So this could go
On
any way.
account of, I don't go near social media. Mrs. G has done all the legwork and handed me this envelope.
Oh my God, it's an actual envelope
got an envelope.
with gold stars
It has
on.
glitter on it.
Oh,
There's
goodness.
Christmas stuff on it.
It's good.
And it says,
We were promised a gold sequin dress, Mr. Gill.
I can get you tassels out if you really want.
No.
No, you keep everything firmly tucked.
Okay. But, you know, the
For
result...
many people, it's glad this is an audio only.
It
podcast.
is.
It's a good thing there's not video in this. But the result is in here. Now, from the noises she was making when doing the result tallying, I think there's been shenanigans in the old voting process.
Shenanigans.
There was a lot of grumbling, a lot of noises. There's double voting been going on. So some votes have been rejected. Has been entered twice.
Oh, dear.
But I know for a fact that doesn't count for my painting.
We won't talk much about yours, Rory.
No, we won't, will we? But let's just say no one double voted on my miniature.
There were, I believe, also votes which were ambiguous.
Hey.
So it's uncertain as to who they applied to.
Oh.
Hey. Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I need a more robust voting system for next year then.
It is. But apparently there is a winner. That's all I know.
Let's get
I
to
know
it.
nothing more than that. So shall I get amongst it, boys?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Shall I
Put
do
us out of our
the
misery.
Yeah, don't do what they do on
Rosemary
Bake
Ford.
Off. Tell them the person we're going to get rid of this week is, and then there's a tea break, and you
Oh,
wait
that's a good
20
point,
minutes.
actually. Oh, I've got to put a cup of tea.
Here we go. I shouldn't have said anything, should I? It's my own fault.
Actually, you know what? I could really go with a wee as well.
Or
I might just
you could
go
open
for
the
a
bloody
wee
envelope.
God, we do actually have to discuss the top games of the whole year
true.
as well.
We
in
ain't
this
got all
podcast.
night.
All right. Steady on, boys. Hang on. Oh my God, it's a big... I'm covered in glitter. Oh, gosh. Hang on, there's a lot on here. Well, they've been independently checked and verified, apparently, these results.
Wow, it's been peer reviewed. Good.
And I've also been told, in case of a tie, Jai has submitted a casting vote.
Oh,
Oh.
How's he?
That's what I've been told. I don't know what that means. Hang on a minute. Right, oh God, where's the number?
She really
Right.
did say.
Here we go. Okay, I understand what's going on here now. Do you want them in reverse order?
Go on then.
Okay, so one person got 3 votes. Then it jumps a little bit.
just a bit of a jump.
Goes a bit of a jump there. Okay. Oh, wow, this is bloody close. Right. Then it jumps to 25. And then a very, very small jump to 27. So it's a 2-horse race.
2
boys.
votes.
2 votes in it. It's not much in it. But with 3 votes is our very own Rory.
Thank you.
That's all right, man. There's not much more to say about that.
No,
I'd like
there
to
really
sugarcoat-
isn't. No.
I'd like to
Move on.
sugarcoat it for you, chap, but and in second place with 25 votes is the gaffer,
Ooh.
which means Andy takes it with 27
Really?
votes.
Jesus, I thought Steve had this one because he was in the lead pretty much the entire way. Wow.
Congratulations, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Well
am
done, gents.
genuinely surprised. Thank you, everybody. That was very kind of you all.
Oh, apparently my mother was one of the dual voters.
Oh, your mum was booted from the vote.
Apparently my mum voted.
And voted twice.
I voted twice.
Wow.
And the real interesting question is, that I'm assuming she voted for the same person twice. Oh, well, there you go. Very interesting.
Mr. Lewis, well done.
Wow.
Well done, mate. Congratulations. I do feel we need a bit of a round of applause or some kind of celebratory thing, but you'll add that in the edit, right?
I'll add that in post. It'll sound much more glamorous in post.
Wow.
As long as I don't get a wah 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 at my result, that's fine.
Now you will.
No, you will. Who's planted the seed?
What have we learned 2 minutes ago? Don't put ideas in people's heads.
Yes.
Leading the witness there, Rory.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, don't practice.
That was very good, actually. Thank you. I would have prepared a speech, but I genuinely thought I'd come second. So never mind.
So same time next year, then, chaps.
But yeah,
At least we'll do this once next year. Although I do suggest maybe doing it twice, but never mind.
okay.
I'm up for it.
Once every 6 months.
I do think it's stretched me more this time.
Yes.
I do think it made me think more about my painting and what I was doing, a bit more planning and things like that. And I do, looking at, because I've got them on the shelf next to each other. I've got Troll from last year and the Minotaur from this year, and I can see how much I've improved in 12 months. So I really want to see how much I'm going to improve in another 12 months.
Yes.
I'll have to start thinking of a new handicap then.
Well, yeah, we need to come up with some ground rules, but I don't think, as Rory's alluded to, I don't think we've got time for that today. So any listeners, actually, if any listeners have any suggestions of what we can paint, whether we should have a theme, whether we should have a limitation. I mean, there's part of me wants to kind of go, well, let's go hog wild this year and just, it can be anything, but as a contrast. But I do like the idea, as Sid said, of there's something to ground us in some way. Whether that's, the miniature is one. We've always done the same miniature, haven't we?
Yeah, but it might be interesting to mix that up, actually. Yeah. That we do different miniatures from
do different miniatures
and
have a theme. And have a different kind of limitation.
So having said we wouldn't discuss it, we are now discussing it.
Well,
okay.
And you know what we're like.
Yes.
Rabbit hole we fall into.
The rabbit holes are many and varied and very deep. So,
So like most award ceremonies, we now need the music to chivvy us on to the next award.
and here to present the next item is Mel Gibson.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, of all people,
Really?
we got Mel Gibson.
No, sorry,
Really?
I've just been told he couldn't make it.
Right,
no,
okay.
wouldn't make it. Apologies. Instead, we have another challenge to announce.
Yes, well, this is me and Rory being possibly crazy here.
Yeah.
Stupidly optimistic is another way to put it, but go for it.
I don't know. We can take some bets, Andy and Sid, if you fancy how far we'll make it through. But as we alluded to in the last episode, Steve and I have decided that we're going to take on the Board Game Geek top 100 games. So we're going to try and play all 100 games in the Board Game Geek top 100 at least once over the course of 2024.
Yes.
Game
So
every
it's gonna
3
be-
days, boys. That's a big ask.
Well,
But see, there's a couple of easy wins. There's a couple of days when we can probably do like 10 games a night because they're all really short.
yeah.
Yeah, but then there's also some monsters in there. That
There's
take
also
days.
Gloomhaven, Frosthaven, and Jaws the Lion in there, and 3 legacy games. So yes, it's a bit tricky.
Do you have to complete the game or simply play the game?
Just play
What
it.
are the rules of engagement here?
Well, I suppose with the
Because I can take the lid off 100 games, no bother, and I can say I played it.
Would you
Right?
play them, though, Sid?
Well, I would have played them by simply taking them off, taking the lid off, moving a few pieces around. I played it, put it back in the box, and moved on with my life.
I
so
think
they've
when
got
it
to be
comes to
some rules.
legacy games, we'll have to have played at least one game of that legacy
think
game.
so,
If we
yes.
can play more, there's a few games on there that have got like multiple editions of the same game. So I think Agricola's on there twice.
Great Western
and
Trails
Great
on there
Western
twice.
So we're
And Eclipse is on there twice.
so we're not going to play different editions of the same game. So we're just going to play. If we play Agricola, we play Agricola. If we play
That's
Eclipse, we
fair,
play Eclipse.
yes.
I mean, it's
Yeah, that's good.
and of course we've got board game arena, so that we're going to play some games on board game arena, so we
Yeah.
can spread those out a bit as well.
I did say, I think if we've got access to a physical copy,
We
so
should
basically one of those 4 or someone we know has got a physical copy, we're going to try and do that as a priority rather than play it at Board Game Arena.
Yeah.
That's the backstop, isn't it? It's
That is the
if
absolute
if
backstop,
all
yeah.
else fails.
If all else fails, or Tabletopia or whatever it is, so it's just like and that might be a time thing. But we're going to try and bosh this out over the course of next year.
So by this time next year is basically what you're saying. You should have completed your challenge.
Well,
we should be.
you can
in the-
announce how
to be
far
honest,
you
yeah.
got through it.
because Steve and I really probably aren't going to be meeting up even this time next year. We're not going to meet up in the last weeks of 24, are we?
No, we'll have got to the end of our gaming time by this time. Well,
Yeah.
let's just say by the time we record this episode next year,
Yeah.
regardless of when it is,
Oh shit!
by the time we record the
Right, so that's
episode
about
this
50
year.
weeks to play 100 games.
And in
That's 2 a
amongst
week.
this, you are
Yep.
also going to be playing new games
Yep.
and other games,
And games that we just want to play.
having a
And
job
painting 2 minutes.
and a life and miniatures.
Yeah, we're setting ourselves up for a fail here, Sid, but it's going to be interesting to see how far we get.
I'm just talking out loud. I'm not saying you're doing anything.
I refer you to my previous statement of stupidly optimistic.
So
but we'll see how it goes.
what's your percent? How far do you think we'll make it through then, Sid and Andy? What's your percentage of the top 100 will make it through?
I think you'll get through about 40 of them.
No, I think you're a belligerent bunch of right? And I think you will. I think you'll do a good 90 to 95% of it. I reckon you will. I reckon you will stick at it because, like I said, you're belligerent. You're going to fight it right to the end. And I think as long as you can keep your rhythm up, like you have, you're playing every Monday night at the moment.
Yeah, so we're playing four times a month at the moment.
Yeah,
and if
we do
4 times a
month
day as well.
Anyway, you throw a day in as well. I reckon if you chew it up and you nibble it out right and plan it, I mean, there's a big if. I reckon you can do this. I think you got to treat this like you do any other exercise in life, and you got to split it into chunks of manageable chunks that you can mash together into like little sessions, and you've got to be ticking them off as you go. Psychologically, you need to be seeing progress. Otherwise, it's going to be like the New Year's resolution, and you're going to get into the end of January, and you're going to have your gym membership, and you won't go for the next 11 months. So I think we need to have a segment every 3 months to see how you're getting in.
A quarterly update.
Like a weigh-in. We need a weigh-in.
A quarterly
We need a
weigh-in.
weigh-in every month or every 3 months, something like that, just to make sure that you're on track. A burn rate. We can have some graphs. We can have telemetry, boys. Do you know what I mean? Oh,
very slow-moving telemetry.
Well,
Jesus, thanks, Andy. Thanks for the vote of confidence, pal.
Well, it would be, because you're only playing like one game every 3 days on average, aren't you? So it's not as if we're going to get a live update.
Oh, we could, though.
Andy, in fact, shocker.
We don't do facts here. Take your facts and shove them up your arse.
Anyway,
speaking of opinions and talking out their arse, Andy.
I prefer the term facts for this one. This is,
it's purely subjective. It's not a fact.
Entirely factual. I'm a scientist, Rory. I am objective at all times. As regular listeners will be no doubt excited to learn, I do an insert of choice award every year, because a good insert is actually quite hard to find, and it's also very pleasing when you put something together and it actually fits in the box and everything goes together where it should, and that is very nice. Whereas there's many games that are pretty much useless when it comes to this kind of thing. You sling the insert away and just go for a shower of baggies because it's a damn sight easier and everything fits. So I took it upon myself, with absolutely no prodding whatsoever, to recognise this investment on behalf of the publishers, that a decent insert is actually quite a nice thing. And there are quite a few entries this year, which is, I think, a lot better than last year. I think it was slim pickings last year, as well as the underclasses tried to get themselves involved and were thankfully overruled. As we discovered, this is not a democracy, gentlemen.
I still say that the insert for Acropolis is bloody brilliant, but never mind.
It may well be, but that was last year, and I don't have it, so it doesn't count. So this year's entries, the shortlist being Burn Cycle, which I acquired relatively recently, which is chip theory games, and they're pretty good for inserts, really, when it comes to things like that. So lots of sort of chip trays and dice trays and things like that. Castles and Burgundy Special Edition, which myself and Mr. Tudor both have, which is from Awakened Realms, which is very nice. Everything goes in the right place there, apart from one little bit that does come out for ease of use during the game. The little sort of chip tray that you take out and is very nice, but it doesn't sit in the bloody box properly. Every time it lifts something out, it goes everywhere. It's really
that
annoying.
Happened exactly to me this weekend.
There you go.
This weekend,
yes.
And it went everywhere.
So
yes.
It is discounted.
Yes, I agree.
A solid entry, but unfortunately let down by one small, really annoying tray. Expeditions from Stonemaier, which we played last weekend. Yes. We will talk about that in more detail in 2024, I'm sure. But it does have a lovely insert. Unfortunately, it is marred by the fact that it is clearly waiting for expansions. It is obviously a horrible marketing exercise, and it's a cynical marketing exercise by Stonemaier there. Can't blame them, really. They're a board game company. They have plans to make board games, so fair play. But things do rattle around somewhat in there because of it. Florence. I got this, I think, pretty much on like the 2nd of January this year. So it just about counts. Now, we know that Braincrack, it is Braincrack that do Florence, isn't it? Not Mind Clash, yeah. I always get those two confused. They do the typical box full of player counters and everything else goes in the middle. And that's very convenient, very nice. Everything fits in. It's lovely. Apart from the coaches, which is slightly irritating, but it's not a bad insert at all. Bot Factory, that's from Eagle Griffin, which always do a good job. They are high production value. Everything fits in the right place, apart from Sandra. And we all encountered Sandra, but there's one bit of this that has to go in a baggie, and there's one bit that doesn't. I think it's Sandra that doesn't, but there's all little wee counters that go into a wee baggie, so you have to put them separately, which is irritating. It's not a game breaker, and it's a very minor complaint, but it is irritating, and in such a tight field, I'm afraid I'm going to have to discount them. But there's and also by Eagle Griffin, there's Weather Machine, which is very, very, very lovely. I'm lousy at the game, but it does have a fantastic insert. Again, Eagle Griffin, high production quality, very nice. And then there is the big one, which myself and Mr. Tudor both have, and commented on the fact that the instruction manual, just to put the game in the box, was particularly well made, and it was nice to have. So it is, to me, a toss-up between Voidfall and Weather Machine. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to choose Weather Machine with the simple fact that Voidfall comes with 14 little card trays that aren't any bloody use, because it makes the setup more annoying.
Yes, I agree with you there.
Yep, your advice to not bother putting the cards in those trays was well received, because I'd done it, and then I realised why you told me. I thought, yep, good choice. So they are now basically paint mixing trays for me.
It's such a bizarre design choice. I can understand the reason. There's like these little trays, and what they do is they stack on top of each other, so the tray above becomes a lid of the one below. And what you're supposed to do is the cards for each of the factions in the game. So you put like the A to B cards, which are the U2 powers. Then you put in like the your starting abilities, which of course go in there. You also got a big slot if you want to put like a special ability card, which goes in there. You're then supposed to put in the technologies for those races. But the problem is, there are some scenarios that require you to use those technologies, even though you're not using those races.
Do you have to say that again?
So you have to take them out again.
Which is irritating.
Which technologies should have just gone
in a section
deck,
of the room.
In a little tray.
In a technology deck. Yeah.
They should have taken the space that they use for that little column of trays and made a small box that had those different types of cards in. That would have been better. Yeah. But never mind. What do we know? So, this year's insert of choice is going to Weather Machine. It isn't perfect, so if you really, 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 really shake the box, there are a couple of counters that move around, but on the whole, it is extremely snug. So Weather Machine, well done, Eagle Griffin, again, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Innovations. Is Innovations? Inventions, his next one.
Inventions. That
should be coming out, I hope, Q1 next year, but we shall see. So there you go. That's the insert of choice. We can now move on to the important stuff.
Yes. So, board games. Now, ground rules.
Okay.
Ground rules simply are the games that are new to you in the last year that you love. The game doesn't necessarily have to have come out this year, but when we pick our game of the year, I think it should have to have come out this year.
Okay, so the overall game of the year. Okay.
Yes. But other than that, it could be a game which is new to you.
Okay.
And not necessarily, and your reason for picking that is your reason alone.
Okay.
Now, I see Sid has put a few games in. Normally I would say Sid picks the first goer.
So let's continue that.
No, I guess. All right. Well, no, I'm going to say since Andy just spoke, I was going to say you pick, but now you've just picked Sid. So I think Sid.
Oh, you've picked me. Oh God, I'm sorry.
Yes. So three each.
Sid.
3 each.
We will be picking 3 games each, and then we'll discuss can we come to a conclusion to a possible game of the year.
Okay.
And I think we will. And I think I already know what it is.
Likewise, but we'll go through the motions. We'll pretend this is not a foregone conclusion, but we'll go for it.
That's interesting. Okay, interesting.
Does that mean you're going to be the black sheep of the family here, Rory? Because I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure I'm going to tip for that one either.
All right, okay. Well, let's see what happens.
Let's see how the discussion progresses.
All right, so go on, Sid, pick a game.
I'll pick a game, right? Well, I'm going to start with the game that arrived at just the right time for me this year in 2023. And we were going through a bit of an RPG session, quite big games. And this one just came in as a palate cleanser. And it was bloody fantastic at doing what it did. And it reinvigorated me.
Was it Dungeons and Dragons, Sid?
No, no, definitely not, Andy. It was not. When would I ever say Dungeons and Dragons have tried at my table and cheered me up?
That was the joke, yes.
I mean, the only time, actually, to be fair, you're not wrong. It would cheer me up in a good rant.
Anyway.
But the game that I would like to start our podcast or our 2023 list off with is Actung Cthulhu 2D20.
Nice.
Because it's brilliant. It's got Nazis in it. It's got Cthulhu monsters in it. And it's got Nazi Cthulhu monsters at the same time. I mean, it is just pulpy, fun, absolute nonsense. And you know what? As a little one-shot palate cleanser RPG game, I highly recommend absolutely everyone gives it a punt, even if you don't like Nazis and Cthulhu. It's just, I don't know what it is about it. It's a simple game system. The 2D20, I think, is a fairly popular system within our crew anyway. Lets you get playing really quickly. The quick start is great.
Quick start is a really fun adventure.
It's a really fun adventure. It gets you going with it really quickly. I just think it's a really great game. And it arrived for me at the end of we were playing through Vaesen. One of mine for the third list, unfortunately, is Mythic Britain, Vaesen Mythic Britain by Free League, because it was shit as a mystery. It was awful. Yeah. As a game system and a proper game, Vaesen was absolutely fantastic. I just thought Mythic Britain was absolute fucking shite.
But let's stay positive, Sid.
Actung Cthulhu came along, brushed all of that away, and just reset me. And I'm very grateful for it for doing so.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, the mission we played, I think, was the quick start we played.
It was,
as a party cleanser. And we were doing basically like a Normandy style drop, so it's right out of any kind of like World War II film. We had a ragtag band of misfits. I think my character was an Australian, so of course I had a boomerang and an Alsatian, which also had a parachute, by the way.
Was it called Bruce?
I can't remember what the Alsatian was called now, but basically you were dropped into this town to find Nazis, and it ended up the Nazis were, of course, Cthulhu worshipping Nazis who were doing an occult ritual. So it felt like a World War II movie. It felt like Indiana Jones. It felt very much like Hellboy. You could tell it takes in that very much Hellboy idea of the Nazis after Cthulhu occult stuff. But silly enough to be fun, but serious enough to not feel overly silly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it wasn't a Scooby-Doo mystery. It still had an edge. It still had there were still bad things going on. So there was as much or as little of the kind of darkness of the Cthulhu mythos that you wanted to throw in as you'd like. And I think that's what I like about the system is you can make it as pulpy and as daft as you want, whilst giving it the darkness and the edge you want as well. And it's up to you as a group to decide where you are on that scale as to what this game gives you.
Excellent. I am yet to play it.
You need to play it. I think it is one of those. I think a little quick blast. I don't think I necessarily want to do a long kind of months or years long campaign because I think it would wear thin. But I think as a little couple of weeks, 2 or 3 sessions, it's fantastic. And there's loads of stuff out for it. And it's all pamphlet, kind of comic booky type size stuff as well. It's not huge, thick D&D tomes that take years to finish and things like that. And it's quick stuff. It's quick blast stuff.
Right,
awesome.
Who's going next then, Sid? You pick a...
Oh, I got to pick. I got to pick who's next. I'm going to, as Andy pushed me under the bus, I'm going to push him under a bus. Go on, mate.
You're going to pull me with you. Oh God. Well, all right, fine. I'm going to pick one that isn't on anybody else's list, which, to be fair, isn't actually hard because most of mine are not on your lists, which is good because it means we're a varied and therefore objective group. And the first one, what I really, really enjoyed this year, is a game called Solani, which I don't think any of you have played yet, have you?
No, I still not played it.
No.
Okay.
Keep telling us about it. So that's 101 games we need to play next year. Then.
There you go. Adding to the list. It'll be 103 by the time we finish this one. But anyway, actually, no, it won't. So, yes, Solani by Final Frontier Games. We talked about this I think I talked about this in a previous podcast.
We have, yeah.
But it is a up to 4-player game. It is I think it is an abstract game, I think is the technical term for it. It's basically a drafting... I would say tile placement, but it's definitely not tiles. They're more tokens than anything else. And the idea is you're building a map of the sky. And in order to do that, you're putting either circular star tokens down or what they're called path tokens, which they're basically kind of the lengths between, where stars are. If you draw a constellation in the sky, you get the lines between the two. It's that kind of idea. Ultimately, it's based on, I believe, Native Americans or North American myths and legends about how the universe was created, basically. So there's a series called the Pillars of Creation series, which of which Solani is one of 2 so far, and it's just a really, really well produced, because everything's done on neoprene mats. Really well produced, really straightforward to play game that has a lot of thinking in it. And it's got that sort of, oh crap, why did I do that kind of moment when you put something down, because once it's down you can't change it. And you suddenly realise you've kind of manoeuvred yourself into a corner when everything else comes out, and you pick a draft and you think, I really need a 2, and you never see a 2 for the rest of the game. So you're kind of screwed and you lose some points. It's extremely fun like that. It's only about a half an hour, 40-minute game. It's not long. It's quite sort of light-ish, but it has lots of crunch. It's really pretty, really well made, really fun to play, and it's gone down really, really well with everybody I've played it with. So my game group here, Laura and myself, a couple of friends, James from the Worcester group, Steve, they've played it as well, and everyone's really enjoyed it. So yeah, really top marks there for a more simple game, which I realise is not my usual fare, but it was a bloody clever game, bloody good game.
No. Looking at the images of this game, it does look like Rory Street.
Yes, I think Rory will really enjoy it.
It looks like a Rory game through and through.
It really is.
Well, luckily, I'm going to be looking after Andy's board game collection next month. So
that is very true. You will be. I expect it all to be there once it's finished.
Are you going to take an inventory?
It's in my head, mate. I'm that kind of weirdo. It's also
just turn boxes upside down, mate, or move them around.
Just empty them out into baggies and just leave them empty boxes on the shelf.
I'm just going to swap the contents of boxes.
Now that would be more annoying than losing it completely. That would boil my piss to the point of plasma. Anyway.
So, Andy,
who's next? I'm going to pick you, Mr. Summers, I think. Because I want to know what you're going to pick here. I've got a feeling I know which one you're going to pick, but let's see if you're going to...
I'm going to start with, again, we discussed recently on episode 138, Leader Games Ahoy. This is a game that the 4 of us got together and played just the other weekend as well. We discussed it in more detail, so if you want to know more about it. But this is a fantastic dice placement, area control, pick up and deliver, asymmetrical game about pirates. So I love dice placement games. I love pirate themed games. I love asymmetric games. Everything about this game before I pre-ordered it last year was ticking all the boxes. I played it really early, and I've played it a few times since. I've gone and pimped it out and bought some stickers for all the little wooden meeples. It's a great game. 2 players are playing as pirates. 2 of the players are playing as smugglers. The smugglers are going to be doing the pick up and deliver, taking goods between the different islands once they've explored them, which increases the wealth of those areas. The other 2 players as pirates are really just duking it out to try and take area control of those really wealthy areas. It's a really clever game. I think as the 4 of us now all played it, I think everyone around the table was saying how much there was in that game, how much there was inside that box. It's a small box, it doesn't have a big price tag, but there's an awful lot of game in there. And it was really interesting, and we had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, it was a good laugh. A really clever game. It's slightly lighter than Root, but you can see there are definitely parallels between it and Root. But it's a very, very different game, as we discussed at the time. You can see kind of similarities, but the games are very different. It's a lot easier to play than Root. It's also a damn sight easier to teach than Root.
Yeah.
But I agree absolutely wholeheartedly. I loved it. I think it was a brilliant game. Really solid choice. Really great game. Really well made. Really easy to play. It's literally just put 2 dice down, do things next player. But those 2 things can have really important consequences. Like, for example, starting a war.
Yeah, the player interaction is fantastic, and even
really
the kind of the almost the synergies between them. How the pirates need those smugglers, and the mistake we made was we let the smugglers, because Andy and I were playing the pirates. We let Steve and Sid kind of get a really
me and
big,
Steve were the smugglers.
Oh, you and Steve was. We let you guys get a really big lead with the points with all your smuggling, and we didn't fight you enough because we just almost ignored you to our detriment at the end. There's, Sid and I we just let you go away and smuggle, and you just ran away with the scores because of it.
It's a really clever game because you rely on the other players to do things to get you points. But as you said, you don't want to get away with it. Like you need the smugglers to smuggle some goods to ramp up the points in certain areas. But then, as you said, you need to get them to once they get to a point, go no. That's enough. Thanks.
Yeah.
You can now get back in your box.
Get back in your box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were too busy fighting amongst yourselves. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite end of the map, especially when there's one point when 4 islands basically next to each other, and they're all different symbols. And it was a case of me and Sid could just basically pop them back and forth.
Ready, circle. It was awesome.
well, you're on the opposite side of the board.
We were on the opposite.
You mean that it's too late? Hang on, you needed to stop us.
But then that flips at the end of the game when the smugglers, because as the smugglers go, you bet on who's going to control certain areas at the end of the game. So at the end of the game, that's where you pick up a load of bonus points. And that's really interesting as well, because you want to make these areas really lucrative, but you really need to hedge your bets as to who's going to really fight it out. And obviously, because the scores at the end were actually, if I remember, were fairly close-ish.
Yes,
because I think was it Steve? You had bet a certain way, and you'd lost a lot of your bets because I didn't behave in the way you had anticipated.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Exactly that. I quite literally assumed that one person was going to do a certain thing at the end of the game, and the 2 of you did the complete opposite of what I expected to do.
Which cost you a lot of end game scoring points.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic.
So yeah, absolutely brilliant game.
That's why it's a good game.
Yeah.
It is just a really good game.
I'm dead excited for the expansion, which doesn't get released until Q1 2025.
Ouch. Oh, full year to wait. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll get it played.
Mr.
Tudor.
Go on, your choice.
Right, okay, so I am going to pick a game which I know is not on anyone else's list. And technically this game came out 7 years ago.
Ah, well, let's narrow that one down then.
But I'm also going to add this on a technicality, because the very first expansion, the first major expansion of this game came out this year, and the box is bigger than the main game. So I am talking about a game called Kingdom Death Monster. Now, I know this game is a game which a lot of people won't like due to the randomness and, quite frankly, meanness of it. And I know that a lot of people won't like it because of the, quite frankly, astonishing cost involved in playing this game. However, this has got me in a way that no other game has in a long time. I am painting the miniatures. I am doing Rory mentioned it a few episodes back, actually. When you really get into a game and you're looking at ways in which you can bling out the game even further, I'm looking at all that. I'm looking at inserts. I'm looking at ways in which I can make my own custom boards to track things easier. I'm playing it solo on Tabletop Simulator.
Wow.
Which is never heard of. And the Gambler's Chest, which is this absolutely huge expansion, it is a chest, quite literally. I think actual chest would be smaller. Came out about July, August time-ish. Basically includes it's almost the same game again. They could have actually released it as a complete expand-alone, but what they've done is they've actually said, no, this is an expansion. So even though it's got all the monsters you need to play a full game, you still need the base game with the start and survivors, which I thought was a weird decision almost. But yeah, massive amounts of content. So what this game is, I'll just very briefly describe it. It's a cooperative game in which you are fighting against monsters. And it's kind of XCOM-ish in style. So you're, or a bit like a World of Warcraft style boss battle. You'll fight the boss. You will then get loads of resources. You'll spend those resources on upgrading your settlement and upgrading your gear. And I use the XCOM. XCOM analogy is really good because the same thing that happens in XCOM. You get really attached to someone, you boost them up, you give them loads of really good equipment, and then they die horribly because an antelope opened up a mouth in its stomach and chomped them to death. Or the lion swatted them into a pillar and they cracked their skull open and they're gone. And you got attached to that character and you shouldn't have.
It is good for that.
Not formed a bond.
So then you power up your character, just like in XCOM, and you leave them at home. Because you don't want them to die.
Send in the juniors.
You send in the YTS kids, and they get
Exactly
their
that.
arses kicked, and then you throw the game away in a huff.
Yeah, because they're basically going out armed with a toothpick and a towel. As I said, it's not for everyone, but the kind of aesthetic, the style of the game, everything kind of ticks boxes. I mean, it's a miniature painting and miniature modelling project as well. I've got a huge amount of miniatures I now need to assemble and paint and base and all that. I was going to say it's very Dark Soulsy, which we've mentioned in the past. I'm a big fan of Dark Souls. I found out actually only this week they're both influenced by the same thing. So both Kingdom Death and Dark Souls are both influenced by a manga called Berserk, which I'd only heard about this week. So I'm going to look into that.
There you go. It's an interesting universe. I think there's a little bit too much faff, as we've talked about in the past when we played it. But I don't disagree with anything you've said, Steve. It is a very good game system. It is very much like XCOM, of course. You know, you go out into the field, you destroy stuff, bring back alloys to make plasma rifles, and then use the plasma rifles to get more staff and so on and so forth. The miniatures are lovely. It's really well produced. The game system's very clever. It is also brutally hard, so every decision matters. Really, really matters. You know, you get one thing wrong and you're going to die, which is good because games should not be too easy. So yes, I can see why you have chosen it, and I'm glad you've bought it, not me.
That's fair enough.
Yes.
I think I'm going to go back to you then, Andy.
I had a feeling you might. I just had this niggling little thing in the back of my head itching away at me, and now I am struggling to choose a single one. There's obviously one I want to choose, but I'm not sure if either you or I are going to mention that. So, yeah, probably that one. Yeah, I might as well. I can pick the other one.
It's got to come out. It's got to come out at some point.
Yeah, we're almost playing. We're playing chicken.
Got to come out at some point.
Playing chicken here, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we are. So I am going to pick Bot Factory.
What? Fucking bait and switch right there.
Oh yeah. Now we've mentioned it as a potential candidate for insert of choice because it's an Eagle Griffin game, but this is another Vital Lacerda game, but it's a Vital Lacerda Lite. So Bot Factory was released alongside Weather Machine, if I remember rightly, or very close in proximity to it, because I think I got them at the same time. And Bot Factory is kind of almost Kanban light, if anything. It's got a very similar mechanic system where you've got one worker and they will move around a factory and you are building robots. And during your time in the factory, you've got Sandra walking around, looking over your shoulder, asking you what you're doing, and you've got to report to the boss. And the first person to build 5 robots will end the game. And they're all worth a certain number of points, which you can influence during the game. So it's in your interests to make the robots that you're building more valuable and try and farm out some contracts to get you even more points. But of course, Sandra's walking around and all the other players are in your way as well. So your order of things in which you do stuff, so you can build, you can get parts to build robots, you can get some plans to build the robots, and then you can obviously go to accounts to try to influence the outcome. All of those things have to happen in a certain order. And if you don't get the efficiency quite right, it can all fall apart very, 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 very quickly. But it's an extremely well made and well put together and well thought out game. And I think, again, for such a, I'm going to say medium weight game, it's much lighter than anything Lacerda's usually does because he's, you know, sort of king of the heavyweights. But Bot Factory is very much in the medium weight, but very thinky. And that's, I suppose, the bit I really like about it. There's a lot of punch for such a relatively simple game. You've only got 4 areas in which you can go. Each area's only got like 2 or 3 spaces in which you can go as well, and you're going to be doing one thing when you're there. It's pretty much that's pretty much it. Then you go around again. So yeah, for that simplicity, that elegance, and again production values, and it really wasn't that expensive either, if I remember rightly. Probably about 40 quid. I can't remember. Might not even been that much. It is totally worth it and very, very good. So there, Bot Factory by Lacerda, Eagle Griffin. But there you go. Now you guys have all played Bot Factory, haven't you?
I have not.
I
Yes.
have not.
Have you
I
not?
have.
Sid has. That's right. We played it. We played at Tabletop Scotland as well.
And I agree with your assessment fully. I think this is an excellent little game.
Oh, that's good. But
But I need to play Kanban EV again.
Yeah, you do.
Because I played Bot Factory after Kanban EV. And I think we all kind of said earlier in the year, Steve and I didn't get on with Kanban EV for we don't know why. We just didn't. And this I did though. But they are very, very similar in mechanic. That you can see the similarities in these two games.
Totally.
It's terrifying to the point where I felt like I could get straight into Bot Factory, having come off a couple of weeks before, having played Kanban, without really much of a teach. You just point a few things and do, this is that bit, and off we went.
yeah, Kanban was a bit
But it
more
felt like
complicated.
such a different game, and I don't know why. I don't know why this one felt fun and enjoyable, and it just clicked. It just worked. It made sense. It's a magnificent little game. The artwork on it as well is, I don't know, just there's something appealed to me about this game. It's just a really good game.
But it's quite fun. It's cartoony. It's light.
It's a
great.
cartooniness about it. It feels right for the game. The fact it's called Bot Factory, the fact that you're doing these kind of almost comedic kind of robots that you're building. They're not, they're daft. They're engineeringly inadequate, but
Yes.
they're fun and they look right for
You
what they
say
should be. Well, they are, aren't they? They couldn't possibly hold their weight, for
No,
example.
it's true.
Right?
It's true.
But they're just fun. They're just nice, and that is that plus a really, really intricate and actually quite complex game sitting alongside it. It's just a lovely combination.
Excellent.
Well, Mr. Summers, me and you might have to play this in the near future because it is in the top 100. It's currently 51.
What is
There
it?
you
Bot
go,
Factory.
Oh yeah.
No, Kanban EV. So,
Right,
Oh,
okay.
that one.
so yeah, we've got the daddy version.
We've got the grown-up version. Okay.
Yeah.
I can reteach you that if you want, boys. Because I'm not going to lie. It took me 3 sessions and 3 plays of Kanban EV before I could play it properly.
We haven't got time to play it 3 times.
Well, you might have to.
We're always going to hit it once.
You might struggle, but anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, who do I pick next? I am going to pick. I'm going to pick Sid.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to completely change the tone completely, and I'm going to go for the game that I picked up at Expo, which I loved at Expo. I loved it at Tabletop Scotland, and I love it because of its simplicity, and that is Stomp the Plank.
Here.
All right. It's just magnificent, right? It's a simple push your luck game. It's got a magnetic box with little planks. The box is like, like a pirate ship. You open that box, you turn the box over, you stick some planks on it, you put an elephant on the end of each plank, and then you push your luck to see how far the elephant moves along the plank. That's it. It has brought me hours of fun and joy to the point where the boy wouldn't put it down as soon as we bought it. We went to Expo. He loved playing it there. We went to Tabletop Scotland. He was telling his pals to play it. It's one of those really simple games. It's not much more I can really say about it. It is literally that. And it's one of those, you have it on your shelf, you pull it out, you take it to the pub, and adults will come over and look at you and want to play it because the kids are having so much fun with it.
That's it. I mean, last time I played it, I got it out to play a game with my niece. We were on in the summer, we were having a bit of a family get together, and she came in and she played it, and my nephew, who was 2.5 at the time, was kind of joining in a little bit, as much as they can do. But they quickly got pushed out as other adults saw us all having fun. And before you know it, I've just got 4 people that are just trying to beat each other and are being really mean and malicious about how they're playing and how they're bidding. and stuff. It's great.
That
People
sounds-
start thinking the deck is evil. It's loaded against you. It's genuinely, it's a stack of cards, right? And all you got to do is from this stack of cards, you just got to flip up to 6 over. That's it, right?
Yeah.
You get 2 matching icons
You're
during that 6. You're out. That's it, right? The deck is not stacked against you, right? You're just gambling against completely unknown information.
Yeah.
That sounds similar in result, I suppose, to Echidna Shuffle. It's a really cutesy pie game, really good for the kids, really sort of big chunky echidnas that you can move around the game. So for kids, they're just trying to move things around the board. It's fun, it's pretty, it's colourful. You get the adults involved, oh my God, it's war. It is genuine war and hatred. And you are going to lose friends over that game.
The last time I played that, it ended in a stalemate.
It did.
Shuffle,
It
because
just-
we were so bitter, we wouldn't give anyone
Nobody would back down. Well, if I'm not going to win, I'm going to screw you over.
It's a wonderful game.
The difference with the Kinder Shuffle, right, is it actually, you can play that game, right? There is skill, there is ability that you need to play. Stomp the Plank doesn't have any of that, right? You are gambling against a deck of cards.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all you're doing, right? It's do I tick another card, or do I just stop there and push some weight on the end of somebody else's plank? Yeah. That's it, right? And I don't know why it's so good, but it doesn't. In the value in that little box is immense, and it's just one of those ones that has struck a chord with me this year.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
Yeah, I've played this game so many times this year.
Yeah,
so many times. I reckon I've easily played this game 30, 40 times this year.
I think we're up at that number as well.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming out. It 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there after dinner. It's a silly little game that is just bigger than it should be.
I still haven't played it.
You know,
I've still not played it.
we'll have to change that, Steve. We'll have to change that.
Well, yeah. I have a funny feeling. Well, I'm going to Sid's at New Year. I can imagine
it'll come out.
Yeah.
The kids will be playing it. The kids will be playing it.
Well, Mr. Gill, who's next?
Right, who's next? Let's see. I think we should hear from the gaffer.
Oh, God, now you're making me make difficult decisions now.
Yes, you knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming. Right, so let's go for... This is the game I think I've enjoyed the most. It's been a new one. And usually when I do these things, I pick a game I own. And I don't own this game. And I didn't even back the new Game Found because 2 people, I think, in our friends group own this. I'm talking about Beast, which is, as we've described in the past, the transparent movement game, as opposed to hidden movement.
Translucent
movement, yes. It's a game in which you are in some kind of mythical dark landscape. There is a gigantic beast terrorizing the land, and you as a group of hunters will have to go out and kill it. But the beast will have some kind of objective. They'll be required to kill something or do something, and it's a scenario-based game with different maps. And it's really, really clever in that it's such a simple action system. You play 1 or 2 cards. You draft the cards beforehand, which is really nice as well. So there's an extra layer of the game. And it's a game in which no matter which side you are on, you think the balance of the game is wrong. And you think the other side have it much easier than you.
Which makes it spot on.
Spot on, yeah. Because I've played now as Beast and I've played as Hunter, and each time you think that you think you're losing. You think it's impossible.
Yeah.
And it just shows that you look back and you're actually exactly the same things happened. It's beautiful artwork. Again, it's Dark Souls, the artwork. Some of the monsters look like straight out of Dark Souls, which I found odd because we spoke to the artist at Games Expo and he had no idea what I was talking about, which I found quite bizarre. It's a really interesting game where hidden movement is part of it, but using your resources and planning and being strategic is also really important. Absolutely love it. Love the art style. Love the fact you can play it in about 45 minutes to an hour.
It is surprisingly fast, actually, for something that looks ridiculously complicated. It's got millions of cards and you can upgrade stuff and you think, oh my God, we're going to be here for hours. No, you're not. It's wonderful because you get murdered in about 45 minutes. It's great.
Yeah.
Which also means that when you think you've had it mean, you just go, right, well, you be the beast then. Yeah. And you swap places and you play exactly the same scenario. and a completely different thing happens because someone moves into a slightly different location and a completely different series of events happens. And again, it's a really interesting little story that comes out of what you've done.
That's the thing for me. I think when we talked about this before, it's the story that comes with Beast. Every time you play it, it creates its own narrative. And when you walk away from a game, I can think back to when I played this in June, in July, and go, I can remember things that happened because there was a story behind those games.
Yeah.
I take that away from me. And there's not a lot of games that I can do that with. But Beast is one of them, and it makes it very memorable. I think mechanically, it's not a perfect game.
Oh, hell no.
And the rule book, it leaves a lot to be desired. But it is such a fun, good game. And it's a very memorable game. And that for me, it's that experience around the table, which I remember.
And those acrylic standees are bloody gorgeous.
So yes, Beast, I think it's an absolutely brilliant game.
No argument from the rest of us.
None at all. I've had a sample of this one.
Mr. Summers.
Okay, we're talking about... I've got no way of segueing into this, so I'm just going to go... I'm going to go The White Castle. The White Castle is an absolutely belting game. I was talking to Sid about this as we drove down to Steve's. I picked this up less than a month ago. I've already played it 6 times and I'm itching to play it again. Every time I've played it with somebody, I've had to teach it. They've got it, they understood it, they've played a good game, and we've immediately cleared down, set it back up again to play again. It's another dice placement game. We talked about this in the last episode in detail. The game lasts for... you take 9 actions in the entire game.
Not 10, Rory. Not 10.
Not 10.
Just 9.
Just, thanks. Yeah, you will feel like you want to take 10 or maybe 11 actions. You're never going to enough. This is an espresso euro. It gives you all that big, crunchy decisions. You're going to have analysis paralysis. You're going to be trying to chain actions and sub-actions together. You're going to be looking for the optimization and how best to take every single turn. You're not going to have enough brain space to try and consider what your opponent's trying to do to stop them. It's pick up a die, place it somewhere on the board, either by number and or colour, to trigger something, to gain some rewards, but you're always going to want to do more. There is so much more in this game for me to unpack and to play and to experience and try, because every game is subtly but importantly different. I mean, we've talked like off air about it, how good this game is for the value for money. I picked it up for less than £30, and you should be able to get it for around the 30 quid mark. It is absolutely belting, bang for buck, and for the quality of the game you get inside this box, it is absolutely phenomenal.
Top marks. I do need to play this. It sounds fantastic.
It's really good. Yeah, you do need to play it, Andy. It's right up your street. I mean, I wonder how you will enjoy the fact that it changes or find it frustrating. So I'd love to see you play it just to see how you react to it. But it is, and I'd like to play it with more players. I want to play it with 4 players. We get the stacky dice mechanic to come in as well. Because
that mechanic sounds particularly interesting.
And it's fascinating how, because the board actually changes between games, an action which the first time you play, go, that's absolutely rubbish, is now the most important action in the game the second time you play, which means it's not one of those games we can learn the best actions. You've got to adapt to it. You've got to adapt to it as you play, and you've got to adapt to it every time.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant game.
Right, Rory, who's next?
Let's go back. Let's go to Sid. Let's go back to Sid. Let's just jump back to Sid.
Back to me. Oh, wow. It's come round already.
Right, for your final pick for the best games of 2023, Mr. Gill, what are you giving us?
I thought I was going to give you a game I played at Steve's early in the year that even my wife liked and still talks about it today.
Oh, yes.
So I thought I was going to give you Sleeping Gods. But only yesterday, Mr. Tudor kicked that out of the park and replaced that entry with an actual 2023 game. And that was it's not an expansion. It's a whole separate sequel game. Yeah,
it's a sequel in many ways.
Which is Sleeping Gods: Distant Skies, which is I think we've spoken about Sleeping Gods in the time, but Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies are very similar in the game. It's a kind of map exploring type of game where you're triggering events and little, you move your little person around and you land on a square. You have either a story moment or events unfold, things like that, and you're reading from a very large book of information, and you're evolving your own story as you go. So pick your own adventure kind of game.
Yeah, very much.
But Distant Skies it's like somebody took Sleeping Gods and went, I've got all the stuff that's good. I'm going to keep a hold of that really tightly, and I'm going to make the shit stuff go away. And I genuinely believe this. They've made a good game even better by removing the small annoyances that were in Sleeping Gods with Distant Skies.
Can I ask a quick question on this? Because I've played Distant Skies with you yesterday, but I've never played the original Sleeping Gods. So when you say they took the shit stuff away, it
wasn't even shit.
Was it when you played Sleeping Gods? Were you aware of these rough corners, or is it only now looking back to go? Actually,
no, I think
that was a good thing that they changed.
I think there was a few things when we played through it felt a bit kind of frustrating clunkiness. The moving mechanic felt slow. The way we moved the ship around felt slow.
I'm with what you're suggesting, Rory, with the possible exception of combat. So I don't think you realised just how bad the movement was in Sleeping Gods until you played Distant Skies and got like the fast travel. Because then you were just on a boat, you were exploring. The simple changes like the way the camps work in Distant Skies is an improvement you didn't realise you needed, because in Sleeping Gods you had to go back to a port to rest and recuperate. The fact you could do it any place you wanted. The fast travel of the plane makes a big difference, because there were times you opened up the map and go, we need to get over there. That's a long way away. It's going to take us a lot of turns chugging along the boat to get to that location. The way in which adventure cards worked, I didn't realise we needed that. I mean, in Sleeping Gods, all the adventure cards are laid out in front of everyone and everyone can use them. Here you actually go into your hand and you get dealt them. It's such a simple change that actually speeds up the game quite drastically. It's also a tighter experience. Sleeping Gods took us 4 to 6 hour sessions to do. So I would say 12 hours to play all of Sleeping Gods, whereas we did Distant Skies in about 6 hours.
It was just under 7 hours.
Just under 7 hours.
For the whole game?
We had lunch and a dog.
I've accommodated for those.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was 6 hours, 49 minutes. But that
was from the start of us setting it all up, or Steve had set it up. We came in, we sat down, we started, and it was like 7 hours later.
Yeah,
6.5 to 7 hours.
We could have trimmed 20 minutes off had we turned that one page.
Read the books.
Where then we lost a bit of time looking at some rules and retconning some stuff, but yeah.
But yeah, the only rule which I think from Sleeping Gods was one where you kind of thought this is a bit clunky was combat, and I didn't think it was that bad. It was just hard.
It wasn't bad. I think the difference is that I felt the game was better balanced. Distant Skies felt better balanced, and it got it allowed you to push the narrative forward at a pace which felt right without stodging up, either because you had to travel from corner 1 of the map to corner 2 of the map, which was just boring, or the combat, as I think we're about to start saying, is that that didn't feel like it was in the way anymore. And I felt like we got more story out more quickly, and the narrative held together, because I think the issue with the Distant Skies is trying to remember what happened across 3 different days worth of sessions. It's not easy. Yeah. You lose the subtleties of the plot. Whereas in playing it in a 6.5, 7 hour session all at once, I felt like we got more story out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. The longevity, I'm worried there's more to Sleeping Gods than there is to Distant Skies. Because Sleeping Gods had a bigger map, and I get the impression there was more to find in it. So when you play again, there's more chance of doing different things. But that's just my initial thought from playing 3 campaigns of Sleeping Gods and 1 campaign of Distant Skies. It really did feel that with the original Sleeping Gods, we could play that again and explore a different part of the map and have a completely different story.
Yeah.
And Distant Skies, I felt didn't feel like it was an obvious other place to go to.
Yeah, I think we'd really struggle. If we played it again, I think we'd struggle to not trip over bits of the story that we've already seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong there.
But saying that, we saw the list of achievements list, which gave you the totems, and we'd had 6 of 30 totems or something stupid like that. So there's a lot of that game we didn't know how to explore.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a whole story we were supposed to look for the other members of the previous crew, and we didn't find a single one.
We didn't, no.
No, the game had to give us one because we needed one at the end.
Yeah.
That's how badly we didn't find them.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, I think we'll probably dissect it in a future podcast. But for me, that game has really shone just because of how much, having played both in the same year, it's really stood out for me as Distant Skies.
No, solid addition to the list. So, I'm going to pick for my third and final game. It's going to be Hegemony. Because
What a coincidence!
What a coincidence as well.
I think there's been collusion.
Not at all.
But,
well, maybe a bit.
We've got a shared list of show notes where we've all listed our games.
And you can see where everyone else's mouse cursor is.
That's the bit that gives it away. It's like, who's voting next? Oh, it's that one. Oh, you're going to say that one, are you? Okay. Well,
I've got to admit, there are some other games that could have been up there.
Mm-hmm.
Castles of Burgundy Special Edition is something special.
yes, it is.
But it's not a new game. It is quite literally just a glorified reprint, shall we say, of an older game. There's nothing new about it. But I mean, it's an absolute. I mean, I played that this weekend as well again, and it's such a beautiful version
really
of that game. But they've not changed any of the game. The game is exactly the same.
To be fair, it is new to me this year.
It's also new.
It's also
There
new
we
to
go.
me this year. This is my most played game of all time.
It is also the only Stefan Feld game that I've not hated.
Well, all right, then, very quickly then, before we talk about this last game, Castles of Burgundy then. I mean, I think most people in the
pretty
industry
good.
know about this game. It's bloody good.
It's pretty
very
good.
good.
Yeah, right, next.
Right. Hegemony, we talked about this. We've all played it. We've all played it at 4 players. Sid and Andy played it at Tabletop Scotland. Steve and I played it at Epic LAN. I've borrowed Andy's copy because I want to play it some more. And I'm really just, I know it's like 75 odd quid, 80 odd quid just to buy the base version. And it's just tickling me that maybe I should just buy it because it's a great game. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I played it 2-player the other night and it was still great. I'm looking forward to a 3-player game, hopefully later this week. I'm chomping at the bit to do that and just explore this game more and play all the different roles. It is an asymmetric, very symbiotic economic game where you play different classes and you are going to be playing a card and taking some actions to adjust policy, to put some of your workers out or put some of your buildings out. You've got to manage your resources, manage your finances to make sure you can feed everybody or pay everybody and get money from other players. It's a sublime game and I think it's so clever. The thing I love about the game most, going back to what we talked about Beast, it creates a story when you play this. I think that the theme and the mechanics are so deeply intertwined.
Yes, they are. That's its strength, I think.
You could never separate them. It also makes it really easy to teach because you can talk to someone about the rules as if it was real life, socio-economic policies. And you don't have to be, particularly politically minded or economically minded. Everything is going to just make sense.
And the beauty is really in the execution of it because it is literally on your turn, play a card. That's it. It's literally that simple. And for something so basic and straightforward, just to say to a brand new person, all you're doing is playing a card. The ramifications, however, of that single action are many, varied and widespread.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating to see just how well, or just the significance of the effect that one small thing can have on everybody else is incredible. We've all heard of the butterfly effect, and it is extremely poignant for this particular game. Like just getting 20 20 quid from the government, or costing the government 20 quid, can have enormous implications on not just the government itself, but the other players, because they might have been hoping to get money out of the government. They might have been hoping to get a benefit, or the government might have been hoping to do something to help somebody else. And then, then there's the vote, which the government thinks, well, hang on, you've just robbed 20 quid off me. I'm not voting for you, sunshine.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And as you say, Rory, it's just so deeply meshed with the theme and the mechanics are so deeply meshed that it would be impossible. You could not reskin this game. You could reskin probably about 90% of the games out there, to be fair, and it wouldn't make a jot of difference. But this, not a chance. Not a chance.
So, did anybody else find, after they played this, a new appreciation for the complexity of modern economics?
Yeah. Do you know what I did?
Because I went away thinking about it and going, do you know what? Some of the things I get my arse in my hands about, I'm actually wrong.
Because you don't know the
Do you know
full
what I mean?
story, do you?
Because you're looking at it from a single perspective.
And this forces you to look at it from a different perspective.
So what we're saying is hegemony should be part of the national curriculum.
Do you know what? That's not a bad idea.
No, because then it would get watered down, destroyed by the various parts of the system.
People with agendas, you mean?
Yeah, basically. I think that's why, you were saying it's an easy game to play in terms of placing a card and stuff. I think the other part of it is that people that are playing it live in the real world. So you kind of have a vague concept of how things need to happen. You must create... So somebody's got to create jobs for people to then work in the jobs. And because you've got people working in jobs, you need now people to support the people working in the jobs. And it kind of all makes sense. You might not understand the whys and the details of the economics behind it, but there's enough in it that it makes sense just at a very simple level. So I think that helps that game quite a lot. It's just a really good game.
It is. It's not a short game. I mean, even taking into account our slightly extended game at Tabletop Scotland, I mean, how long did it take you and Rory to play it, Steve?
We played 5 hours, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
5 hours without a break, and that was it was solid going through. I think, though, that if you know the rules and you don't need to teach, if you've played it before, your second game is going to be a lot faster. I think the speed increase is going to be quite high. There was
a game when I played at Aircon West earlier this year in Telford, and there was a group of 4 there who got it out, and they got through in about 2.5 hours. 3 of them had played it before. Okay. So.
Right.
Well, I think even when we played it, Steve, I mean, we were doing a turn, like turns 4 and 5, probably took us just about half an hour.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew what they were doing at that point.
Yeah. And there was a point when we were doing things like you came to the voting and we stopped and went, right, this is how voting works, and went through the rules. And then when we get to the last voting system, it's like, come on, yeah.
Everyone knows what they're doing. Steve's just going to win because he owns the BBC. Yeah. Yeah. See, creates a story. Yeah. I'm going to be talking about that every time I think about Hegemony for years. No, congratulations. Fantastic game, Hegemony.
So, we went to social media and we asked you, our dear listener, which games you enjoyed the most in 2023. So, we've had a lot of replies. I'll just go through them randomly. I will pick out one because it did jump out at me, which was Suzanne Gill.
Oh,
she is not to be trusted.
Mrs. G herself, because she replied, and she has said that her most played game has been Marvel Splendor, which I thought it might be Stomp the Plank, but it's not. It's Marvel Splendor.
Marvel Splendor is very popular in this household.
Which makes me think she has been strong-armed into that.
Well, not by me. Not by me.
Exactly. I know it's not by you. I can imagine the wee man has basically planted the game on the table and go, Mummy, we're playing Marvel Splendor.
Definitely some of that happening, Steve.
Yeah. But she said Sleeping Gods would be her game of the year. Different outcome every time, and you learn something new as you play. The longest game she's played in a while, and she really enjoyed it. And she's just said she hears there's an expansion and would love to play that.
Yeah. I nearly didn't get back in the house last night when I got home.
Was that for that reason or for unrelated reasons?
No,
It may or
that
may
was
not
for
have been
the-
located
that was
in the Mag's
for-
head.
No, I was coming back from Steve's.
Oh, I see.
And I said, she said, what did you play? Oh, we played Distant Skies, sequel to Sleeping Gods. You did what? Yeah, the line went dead for a few moments. And I thought, oh, shit. She really enjoyed it, yeah? That's true.
Excellent. Now, I notice there is an entry here from Mr. Craig Haggart, who's clearly a connoisseur, obviously aligned with my own taste here. He says he's played Tillatum, which is one of his most played games of 2023, even though Steve and I think it is probably one of the most beige games we've ever played, only by appearance.
Yes.
But
and theme.
and potential theme, yes. But it is. I quite enjoyed it, but I can't disagree that the theme is dry. Even for me. But he says the game that made him say wow was The Gallerist, another one of Lacerda's earliest games, I think. But I concur that The Gallerist is a bloody good game. And if you haven't played that yet, Rory and or Steve or Sid,
I've played The Gallerist.
It's on my list.
I beat you.
there you go. It is very, very good. Probably one of his most approachable, actually, considering.
I think it is the most approachable Lacerda game because it is quite literally buy art, big up artist, sell art.
Yes.
I mean, it's not a complicated theme. The theme runs well. I mean, mechanically, it's got some Lacerda stuff in there, which is headspace, shall we say? But yes, it's buy art, big up the artist, sell that art for a profit.
Yep.
Is basically it. So once you get that going, it's quite easy to get your head round. Interesting one here from Mr. John A. Arnott, who says Oathsworn.
Ooh.
So he preferred it to Gloomhaven,
Interesting.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, because you and I have played both of these now, Steve, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I say we've played basically the first mission of each game.
Yes, because we still can't get past the first mission of Oathsworn, and I think we got our ass handed to us in the first mission of Gloomhaven.
Yes.
We have tried multiple times and got our asses
Yes.
kicked, and we got our asses kicked at the first mission of Oathsworn as well.
Yes, that bloody rat.
I think we tried that twice, didn't we? In one session.
Yes, we did, and we did not do
did.
well.
We did worse the second time round.
I think you're right. I don't know. I like both, and I enjoy both, but I still think I prefer Gloomhaven for the story. But then again, I've seen more of Gloomhaven's story because I'm playing it on the PC, so it's exactly the same campaign, and I've seen more of Gloomhaven's story. But obviously, we have not played as much of Oathsworn, so I can't really comment. But they are both very good.
In fact, there's not many duplicates here. Most people come up with different games. So Andy Dobbs is the only other person to mention Oathsworn. Said for a reasonably quick one-off, they enjoyed Earth, so it was great. But the gaming group has been consumed by Oathsworn over the last 3 months and gets them really thinking as a team and presents interestingly tougher challenges with each mission.
Excellent.
Earth is an interesting one because that was absolutely huge in June at the Expo, wasn't it?
Just before
Expo, everybody was talking about Earth, and there was a lot of people saying it was going to be a lot of people's game of the year. And I haven't heard much about Earth since June.
Neither have I. I've seen a lot of people playing it, but I've not heard much buzz about it.
Yeah.
Now, it is on. I've seen some lists of like top 10 games of 2023, and it's about third or so, I think.
Really?
But I don't know anything about it.
There is a really interesting Board Game Geek list. They do it as a monthly list, and what they've analysed, it's the most played games in the last month.
Okay.
So the most plays logged. So that's with BG Stats if you've linked your account and directly onto Board Game Geek. And Earth comes in the top 5 at the moment quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting in that regard. So yes, it is getting played, but you're right, Rory. I've not heard people mention it for quite some time.
There is a quick mention here, a chap called Chris. I don't know if this is a Chris we know or what, but it's just Chris. Mentioning vegetable stock, which is a bit of a surprise entry because I have vegetable stock and I bought it kind of on a whim when I bought Taiwan Night Market, which I'm yet to play, by the same publishers as Hanamikoji. So that lot. And vegetable stock is probably one of the simplest games I've ever played. It is literally just a stock market. It's kind of a card selection, basically a draft. Each round there are 5 vegetables and they change in price. So there's one more card in the market than there are players. Each player takes a card and each card has 3 vegetables on it. And the one card that remains changes the price of the vegetables that are on the remaining cards. So you could have like 2 carrots and an aubergine, for example. So the price would increase by that many of each vegetable. And if it gets to the top, then the price crashes and it's worth nothing. So at the end of 6 rounds, it's the person with the most points. So their vegetables are worth a certain amount of points. So it's not unlike, you remember that game that caused a lot of disturbance at Expo that we all played, that we had to guess and buy medium?
I knew you were
Rich and the Poor, or whatever it's called.
The Rich and the Good, or whatever it's called. Yeah, it's a bit like, it's a much simpler version of that, basically.
Do you know, I want to play this just because I love the puntastic title of the game.
Vegetable stock, yeah, exactly.
It's great. It
only cost me about a £5, maybe a tenner tops. It's a really small, simple card game, and it's just ace. It really is. I really enjoy it. It's a proper filler game. It'll take 10 minutes to play. It's brilliant.
Thanks for the tip. Tom Geddes here is talking about Dorfromantik. Saying it's one of his favourite games of the year, and Dorfromantik is, I have to say, I really like this game. Again, it is that, for me, it fits that nice filler game, end of the night, that we've got, 15, 20 minutes before I've got to go home or get the train or whatever. Let's just have another game of Dorfromantik. Let's just have that enjoyment of the puzzle. Let's tick a few more boxes on the legacy. Let's see if we can unlock something and move on. It's very calm, it's very zen, it's very cooperative, feels like a real collaborative kind of jigsaw building process. So it's and I think it's a very innovative game as well, very different from everything else that's out there. So yeah, can't help but agree with you there, Tom.
There's a series on here. There's a couple that have come up a couple, and the Undaunted series has been mentioned a couple of times.
I was about to say that. There's quite a few people mentioning Undaunted. And I don't think a single one of us have played an Undaunted game, have we?
Rory and I did have a chat with Osprey Games when we were at the Expo, and we had a look at Undaunted Battle of Britain.
We did.
And we had hoped to have a game of it, but I think time got the better of us and slots were disappearing. But I want to go back to it. I still have a little bit of an itch to go back and play that. It's a 2-player game, which I presume Stalingrad is as well, which is the other one that's mentioned. So that's been mentioned by Cacadrillo and who else? Andy Dobbs mentioned them. But 2 recommendations for a series of games, which I don't know. That's got to be something we've got to poke at.
I really want to play these. The 2-player games are kind of my thing. I love that. It's also, all the art is by Roland McDonald, and I think his art is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, the art is
gorgeous. So yeah, I really want to get and play.
And you can live out your kind of feeling of pushing things across a map
with the stick.
As far as I could tell, with the stick. Yeah. So it wins on all counts, really.
Has to be done.
So then, folks, we're coming to the end of this podcast, and it is traditional here that we announce what we think is the Polyhedron Collider Game of the Year. Now, last year we mixed things up, mainly because Andy did not fully agree with one of our choices.
That was correct.
So we actually split it into 2 categories, which was a light game and a gamer's game. And I mean, if you can speak German, there are names for that, apparently. So, I mean, we've more or less given the game away here, but I think seeing... oh, God. Oh, dear. Maybe I should stop the podcast now. So, light game, am I right in thinking our selection is Stomp the Plank?
100% Stomp the Plank.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the best light games of the year.
There we go, then. So who's that by again, sorry?
Hachette.
Hachette Games. And I think, the fact that 3 of us picked the game, and I think it actually appears in all 4 shortlists that we've written on notes. I think the Polyhedron Collider Gamer's Game of the Year has to be Hegemony. Lead your class to victory. Because I think all of us have come away from playing that being amazingly impressed by what it does. And although it's a ridiculously complicated game, and it takes all afternoon.
And it's a bit of a dry theme for a board game, really. Let's be honest. It's not the most interesting of themes.
It's not pirates, is it? So yeah.
No.
It's not pirates. It's not defending your camp against giant monsters.
No, it's not little woodland animals having a war. Yeah.
But it just goes to show you that theme doesn't matter, which is why Euros are best. But anyway.
We were just talking about how integrated the theme is to this game and how important it is to why it's so good. You can't then say it doesn't matter, Andy.
We've just said it's. Well, I didn't say it doesn't matter. It's not very interesting and therefore doesn't matter. It's a logical leap. I'll grant you.
Okay.
Potentially an illogical leap.
The PHC Awards descend into disagreement over a game that we all love.
Yep.
Just feels so fitting.
Absolutely right.
It just feels perfect. We love this game,
is it better
everybody.
The fact that it's me and Andy arguing as usual?
Of course it is. It's not an argument, Rory. I'm merely explaining why you were wrong.
See, now we're arguing over whether we're having an argument. I mean, this is the circus that this is. Oh, I can see what's going to happen in the edit here. The gaffer's just going to fade us out at this point, as we're all having a bun fight argument over in a game that we all love. And the best game of the year.
Right then, let's draw that to a close then. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We have been Polyhedra and Collider. If you enjoyed us, please give us a review on iTunes or share with your friends or on your podcast platform of choice. You can find us on Facebook, X, and the BGG Guild 2726. I've also signed up for Threads, which seems to be gaining quite a bit of momentum, actually. I'm getting a lot of notifications. It seems to be rather popular at the moment, so we should be posting stuff to there as well. The next episode, of course, is going to be our 2024 preview, where we're going to talk about the games we're excited to see. Now, somebody has happily put the list of games we're excited to see in 2023, and I've noticed half of them haven't arrived. So... maybe a bit of deja vu. Who knows? But we want to know what your game you're looking forward to is, listener. Let us know on any one of those social media platforms. We'll put a post up. We'll put it on a comment or put it on a thread on BGG. And we'd like to know, partly because we'd like to know what interesting stuff we could talk about as well. But until then, happy gaming.
And a Merry Christmas. Probably
Cheerio.
belated Merry Christmas by the time this comes out.
Yeah. Bye-bye.